deaths I have ever seen. Did you see him hit those bricks? And did you see him hit that lawn, which is very tightly mowed? He didn't. Boy, he hit it real hard. And Cassavetes, when he fell off that little ledge, hit the ground real hard up at Lake Arrowhead when he was shot. And our president, when he died, did you see him hit that floor face down? Not padded. He was not padded. No knee pads, no nothing. He hit that thing. I don't know how these guys do that and still survive, but that's something.
And there we go. Now, oh, by the way, yeah, speaking of fan letters, you got a return from Zorro. I wrote Don Siegel a fan letter when I was 14 and got a response.
So, me?
No, me. When I wrote Don when I was 14 years old. He wrote me back.
Don Siegel?
Yes, he did.
Oh.
He always wrote me back, so.
But you
I know I was a credible pain.
Well, I didn't get your letter.
Well, this movie actually had kind of a peculiar beginning because when it was made, a lot of the studios were spending a great deal of money to buy feature films for television broadcast. And CBS had hit on the idea, actually, of putting money into features in exchange for the TV rights. They did this with the John Wayne movie, The Alamo. And that's why Richard Boone is in the film, as a matter of fact. And Alan Miller, who was an executive...
Not because of his talent?
Oh, that too. But Alan Miller was executive at Universal, along with Lou Wasserman and James Lang. Suddenly hit on the idea that if, in fact, they did movies within Universal, which had very strong ties with NBC, that they could then go ahead and basically cut the expense because they would not be paying for theatrical features. And this was the genesis of what they called Project 120. And they decided to put 4 movies into development immediately, all to be shot, each one in 18 days. The Killers, Ride the Pink Horse, which was then retitled The Hangman, also directed by Don Siegel, a remake of Double Indemnity, and a remake of The Plainsman. And the whole idea was Universal owned these properties, and the cast would be made entirely up of Universal contract players. For this film, Lee Marvin, this was part of his contract for M Squad. For John Cassavetes, it was part of his contract for Johnny Staccato. Angie Dickinson had been in Captain Newman MD for Universal and owed them a commitment. And so it went down. Don Siegel had just directed a pilot that was produced and written by Gene Kuhn, who also wrote this movie. So it was all very insular, and that was just the basis for the project. What they did not know, of course, was that there would be objections to the movie from the Senate.
It was 1964.
That's right.
Not a good time for a violent film.
And in fact, Clu, you talk about that JFK was assassinated while you were shooting this movie.
Well, what does Angie have to do with JFK? Never mind, go on with it.
So were Mr. Roper and Sheriff Lobo also under contract with Universal at the time?
They were probably just brought in. Yes. No, Claude was a Norman fellow that worked with Don many times, and were just great actors that he liked to use.
And you had an opinion about Claude Aiken, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And then you punched him in the stomach.
Yeah, okay. Claude was I didn't think could act worth a shit. Until I did this movie, and you saw him, he broke down and then started crying, and I said, I'm in trouble. I'm working with some of the greatest actors in America. Norman Fell, Lee Marvin, and Angie Dickinson is really good in front of that camera. She's so natural. You know, she just, you can't penetrate her character. It's there all the time. And I tell you, I said, why did they hire Claude? And I saw those tears after I hit him in the tummy. And I said this on the menu of the, Criterion thing. And I must tell you that from then on, and I ate dinner, Miriam and I ate dinner with him and his wife one time, and he was funny and charming, and he fell asleep all the time. You have not been able to see him. But he was wonderful in that, as an actor in that role, and I was very impressed.
One thing too that definitely impacted on the film, of course, was Lou Wasserman, who was the moguls at that point, was under a lot of scrutiny from Washington at that then anyway, because they were trying to break up Universal and MCA and NBC, which were all intricately tied together, and he was running the entire show.
MCA was the biggest agency on earth before, during, or since, and they bought Universal. And there was a conflict, and the government said, you can't do that.
Now it got to the point where MCA, what they would do is they even represented crew members. So that Universal, which MCA owned, was paying to the agency fees for makeup people and grips and electrician. It was quite a setup they had. And when this was broken up, Wasserman had a great deal of influence in Washington. However, he was not counting on the Senate Subcommittee for Juvenile Delinquency, which was run by the senator who actually had been one of the U.S. representatives at the Nuremberg trials, of all things, and they started to target television. And when Universal was being broken up, which was shortly after this film was finished shooting, they went after this like a dog with a bone. And they said there is no way that this is going on broadcast television, especially with everyone still reeling from the assassination of the president. So it went out as a theatrical feature, and Jennings Lang, who was then running the Project 120 division and later became the head of production at Universal, said the film around the world in 1964 made over $3 million, which was an incredible amount of money at that time.
You mentioned the name Jennings Lang. Yeah, are any of the folks here from Jennings' family? Did he come down to say hello? Boy, do I ask him good stuff. I've been wondering whether or not to disperse it over the years. Actually, I said it on the thing that Tom and John shot for me. Shot for Criterion when we did The Killers, the release. They did 3 Killers on the same release. Marvelous DVD. And I told this story, and John cut it out when he edited and sent it to them. I said, why'd you cut that out? He said, well, I probably shouldn't have, but I did, you know. I wondered about it since. Jennings and I were good friends. He had a big office at Universal. He was right-hand man to Lew Wasserman. I don't mean he was a hatchet man, but he was. And he called me in one day. We were talking over the huge desk. He said, man, I'm going to do this picture with Brando and, you know, Charlie Chaplin, man. Really looking forward to it. I said, boy.